So this is part 2 of the consciousness in reality series. The first one was is consciousness alone in this reality? So i.e. everybody you see, you come across is just a projection of your consciousness. If you hear that bong in the background is my laptop. I think someone's trying to call me on Teams. Yeah, but it could wait. So the first part was that, and I based it loosely on Andy Weir's work, the book called The Egg, the sort of like the essay called The Egg, where he describes the world as just, you know, it's just one consciousness living in it, and yeah, it's experiencing itself and all the projections around it, right? So his prosecutor, his persecutor, everything is still him, you know. So that's one way of looking at consciousness. So the second way of looking at consciousness is the idea that there are NPCs, yeah, which means that not that they are NPCs, but there are, I don't know the number, but a number of conscious beings in this reality. Some awakened to their true nature, others not so awakened to their true nature. So then the notion is, the premise is, everybody is a conscious being until they awaken. I tend to not lean so much on that because of a couple of things. Like in my waking life, right, as I've sort of like gone through my spiritual awakening process, etc., 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 I have come to the realization that my thoughts create reality, you know. I see coincidences. I even just this morning I was thinking about a friend of mine, and maybe 5 or 10 minutes later I drove past a wall, and it had graffiti on it, and it had his name. His name was actually in graffiti, and I thought, wow. And it's not just that, there were times where I've actually had thoughts about specific things, and I've had people say it to me in the same words or in the same way I thought about it. And it's like, I tend to think, well, how is that possible? Like, how could you have seen it how I thought it, you know? And I know that's just my experience, so obviously it doesn't apply to everybody. But there are people that propose that advocate that, hey, listen, everybody's conscious until they awaken. Some people, and remember, if energy can't be destroyed, then essentially they die, they come back, they die, they come back until they awaken, right? But then that kind of makes one, like, you can also like ask the question, well, if that's the case, then I mean, the thing is, it's a hard one, because that's why I wanted to sort of like just discuss this openly, and we can all sort of like discuss it and share ideas on it. Because there was once upon a time I was unawakened, right? But for as long as I've been alive, I've always been a seeker of knowledge and truth. Even when I was a kid, I used to ask really big questions. Like, I remember when I was a kid, you know, most people, when the Jehovah's Witnesses used to come around, they wouldn't open the door and stuff. I would open the door to them, and I would have full on, like, you can ask anyone that knows me, any relatives, whatever, and I would have full on debates with them for 2-3 hours at a time as a 9-year-old, 10-year-old. You know, I'd debate these people under the table, because I always knew that something wasn't quite right. So when I got into my teens, I started, you know, seeking knowledge. But some may say, okay, well, maybe because you were at a different state of awareness or consciousness, so you were seeking the truth. Others don't have it. So they are yet to experience life and maybe die and come back and die and come back and die and come back, and then each time, you know, it will bring them closer to the truth, which kind of ties in with the first video I made, that you are essentially experiencing, just here to experience, right? So you go and come back, go and come back, go and come back. It's all to do with experience. So the notion of there being an innumerable, like a set number of conscious being, or everybody alive is a conscious being, or whatever it is, right? It's neither here nor there, because even if everybody was a conscious individual, but then you couldn't wake them up, right? Then it's just you, isn't it? Because there are people on YouTube that like talk about consciousness, and you know, they berate what do you call them, unawakened people, you know, oh, they're so dumb, they're so this, they're so that, you know, they just can't see it. And the thing is, like, I tried this in my own waking life, you know. I think I said this in a previous video, and this is going back about, I don't know, about 7 years ago. I wrote a paper, a whole dissertation on the nature of reality as I saw it, you know, and it took me time. It took me a good 4 months to write. You know, I had all my references, I had all my citations, everything in there to make a case about the fact that I thought that we lived in a realm. We didn't live on a ball, as NASA said. You know, cited experiments, everything. And I sent it to my uncles, my cousins, you know, friends that I had, you know, whatever. I sent it to quite a few people, and nobody read it. You know, they literally didn't read it. You know, some tried. They might read a chapter. They might even. I think the person that read the most got to about 5 pages in, and then he sent me a text to say, "Hey, yo, you shouldn't be saying things like this." And I thought, you've not even read the thing, you know. But the point I'm trying to make is, if you are awakening or awakened or becoming conscious or whatever it is, and you are speaking to unawakened people, trying to wake them up, it's never going to work. So you might as well accept that you live as consciousness, or as alone as the awakened being, surrounded by NPCs, because that is what your experience will be. Because there is no reality where you're gonna, you know, everybody's gonna be kumbaya, and then we're all gonna be awakened, and we're all gonna be living in Zion, you know, playing drums and dancing and eating and feasting and, you know, dancing in our raggedy clothes or whatever it is. That's not going to happen. That's not going to happen. You know, if you notice, like, the deeper you get into consciousness, the smaller the field, the more the field contracts. You know, it's such a low number of people that actually get some of these concepts, right? So then it's like, can we actually then argue that everybody is consciousness but just unawakened, or are they NPCs? We will never know. We will never know. But then again, people taught me along this journey. People have taught me, and not that it's not. I can't say one person has taught me everything. It's been essentially, I walk, you know, like the path I'm walking on has been charted by people, but the path I'm on is unique to me, because I've taken elements of, you know, people that were talking about the earth, you know, great people like Eric Dubay, Bose-Al Physics, Russian vids, if you know, you know. All these people, I took that, you know, people like Bart Sibrel and his seminal work he did on the moon. So that, you know, I took that from that. But then, you know, Bart Sibrel is not somebody that believes in consciousness, for instance. So I'll take bits of this, bits of that, bits of this, bits of that. And for me, I formulated my own understanding of reality, and also aligned it with my own sense experience and my own life experience, right? So it's very rare to come across people that get some of the concepts, you know. So it kind of leaves the question unanswered, that is consciousness, is everybody just consciousness but just unawakened? Or is it still just one consciousness experiencing itself with projections? And the crazy thing about consciousness, right, and this whole path and this whole journey, is that even at this critical juncture, whether it's one or whether it's 8 billion pieces of consciousness on earth, the answer is the same. Because when your time is up and you expire from this place, whether it's just you or it's just a million different consciousnesses, it makes no difference. So it could be a bit like Schrodinger's cat. Perhaps there's only one, but at the same time, just by virtue of there being one, there's also at the same time many. It's not one or the other, because you will never be able to prove it. You will never be able to, as long, Schrodinger's cat is in a box. It's both dead and alive at the same time. And I think that's what consciousness actually is, and it kind of segues me into the next point. So for me, my channel is mainly focused on talking about consciousness and these sorts of topics, but at the same time I like to talk about the simulation, because if I'm alone here, right, then it's kind of like a light-hearted way of mocking reality, right? It's funny, that they can do the things they do and present the world how they do and expect us to believe that it's real, or expect me or anyone that it's real. At the same time, if there are multiple consciousnesses here, then if I can't provoke them to think, hey guys, listen, you're actually like consciousness in a human form, then maybe by us having conversations about the simulation, they will start to realize that there's a bigger play here. Do you get it? So I tend to like lean on that side of things more, and talk about certain things. And I mean I do make reality breakdowns and simulation breakdowns, just for the fun of it, really. I find it quite interesting and quite humorous. So yeah, that's that. So we can never know. We can never know, because ultimately we know that the mind projects and the mind creates reality, right? So if that is true, who's to say that it's not the same mind that's projecting other conscious beings around it? Exactly. You can never take that off the table. You can't take off the table that you're experiencing your own thoughts. You can't take it off the table that you are creating teachers to come and teach you, experiences to come and teach you, things to come and teach you. So whether or not there are a gazillion other conscious beings here, or whatever it is, or it's just you in your own universe, it makes no difference. Approach it all the same. Approach it all the same. And I don't sit here to try and be a teacher or anything. All I'm doing is sharing my own experiences. If like there are other conscious beings, then cool. If not, I mean, for the most part, I'm my own biggest fan. For the most part, I listen to a lot of my videos anyway, because I like to revisit some of the things I say, and sometimes I go back over things. I'm like, oh shit, yeah, I forgot about that, or whatever it is. Because when you're on this journey, there are so many different things that pop into your mind, so many different downloads and concepts that just like creep up into your head, and I just like to get it down for posterity. And for me, another thing is it'll be also interesting for me to share these things with my kids, because they're young, but as they grow up, I might not remember everything, but I might say, hey, you know what, go listen to that, or whatever, at least I've got a record of it somewhere, so that's it. And here's the question: are your children like conscious beings, or are they just projections of the mind? Again, it's all very, very, very difficult to prove, you know. And that's why I think consciousness is essentially Schrodinger's cat, or the double slit experiment is the same. The observer, i.e. when you look at it from a conscious set of eyes, it changes. So yeah, that's that one for tonight. Yeah, man. Check in, leave a comment, whatever. Let's talk. Let's have a conversation.